How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And I'm very excited for this review today. We get to talk about Phantom of the Opera. Now, I'm sure all of us know about Phantom of the Opera. What started out as a book by Gaston Leroux was eventually adapted into the 1925 Universal classic, Phantom of the Opera, starring Lon Chaney as the Phantom. And after countless movie adaptation after adaptation, loosely based on its source material, Andrew Lloyd Webber adapted the story into a hit musical starring Sarah Brightman as Christine and Michael Crawford as the Phantom. And after so many years of performances, it stands to this day as the longest running musical of all time. Admittedly, the story of Phantom of the Opera isn't perfect, and it does stand with quite a few storytelling issues. Girl listens to random man she's never seen before, man watches her through a mirror, girl falls in love with a dude she's only talked to twice. You know, normal stuff. And at first I thought the story was very odd and pretty hard to keep up with. I've seen the musical live, I've seen the 1925 adaptation, and after viewing those, I've come to appreciate the story a lot more for what it is, despite all of its flaws. And it takes on the approach of the classic Beauty and the Beast story, which has really been done to hell. With the musical, however, almost every song has the ability to bring an impact emotionally to the audience and bring the story to heights that would practically be impossible for other musicals to reach. What makes Phantom so unique is that it takes on the style of an opera, and certain parts of the show make the audience feel like they're a part of it all. It's operaception. So what's the next big step when you have a big spectacle like Phantom with audiences around the world that enjoy it so much? Yep, you guessed it. Make a movie adaptation that hits every note wrong. Now, production for this film was very interesting when I read up on it. We were originally supposed to get this film all the way back in 1989, back when the musical was just taking off. And who did Webber have his eyes on for directing this project? The guy who brought us bat nipples, Joel Schumacher. Originally, the two starring roles were to be given to Sarah Brightman and Michael Crawford, but after Webber and Brightman went through a divorce in 1990, that would no longer happen. Additionally, Schumacher went on to other projects which ultimately brought production to a screeching halt, and people being eyed for casting of the Phantom included the likes of John Travolta, Antonio Banderas, and even Hugh Jackman. Hell, for Christine, they even had Katie Holmes being eyed for casting, who would eventually be replaced by Anne Hathaway, but would drop out as production interfered with her schedule on Princess Diaries 2. So who would be next in line for these two super difficult singing roles? Emmy Rossum for Christine, and Leonidas himself, Gerard Butler.
This is Sparta!
Now look, I know there's a lot of people out there that really love this film, and I can understand why. But for me... This film was so hard to get through. And I really wanted to like this film, but I think my large dislike came from seeing the stage show before the movie. Right from the start in the auction scene, I thought, okay, starting off the same way as the show, fine. And the sequence of the chandelier rising and changing the scene of the opera house, I thought was very cool. And we eventually get into the first sequence with Minnie Driver as Carlotta, probably the best character in the movie, by the way. And when she starts singing in that operatic style, I was thinking, wow, I know Minnie Driver can sing, but I didn't think she could sing like this. Until I found out she was dubbed for the whole entire movie. And probably the biggest insult is that Driver herself actually does sing at the credits, when everyone is likely to turn off the movie. Why Hollywood will continue to cast people that can't sing and dub people that can sing, I'll never know, but there will be room for that in a sec. So as the movie continues, we eventually get to see not Minnie Driver sing Think of Me, and eventually the Phantom does his first act to stop the singing. And what's supposed to be a frightening moment for the whole cast, it really plays out as nothing. In the stage show, everyone screams and we hear the iconic adding that dramatic feel for someone so mysterious and threatening. And in the movie, it's just a little...
He's here, the Phantom of the Opera.
This is one of the many scattered moments in the movie where there's either no emotion or the wrong emotion. Following this is one of those moments of no emotion when it's Christine's time to shine and Think of Me. And I'll give credit to Rossum for her voice and for actually taking numerous lessons before production. While her voice isn't as operatic as I had hoped it would be, it's fairly decent to listen to. But it doesn't save the song number. Now, my big issue with this sequence is that it's a pretty bland performance. For one, she's just standing around doing nothing for the audience. She looks like she just wants to leave the stage, and it's pretty half-assed. Look at it here in the stage show, and I'm going to be comparing a lot, by the way. We get movement, Christine looks like she's in the moment, and her heart is in the performance, while bringing in the audience with her amazing voice.
Though it was always clear that this was never meant to be.
There's even a random shot of the Phantom's head, and then the performance ends. Man, there's still 2 hours of this. Here's a little fun fact. Christine's father is portrayed by Ramin Karimloo, who would eventually play the Phantom in the stage show, and is probably one of the most well-known, often considered to be the best. It's too bad, though, that we can't have a sequence with him singing, because if you don't already know, the man has an amazing voice. Oh, and ready for the third non-emotional moment already? Right here in the Little Lottie sequence where Raoul and Christine reunite since their childhood, and neither one of them look the least bit excited. And this is where my next problem comes into play. This sequence is supposed to be sung, but they talk for 90% of it, so the delivery just sounds awkward, and the lack of emotion just brings it down even more. Remember what I said about this musical being unique from all the others? Well, Schumacher over here is saying, hell nah, we gotta be like the rest of them, so let's just have them talk for most of it, and sing a couple times here and there. Imagine if they started talking for the music of the night. Nighttime heightens each sensation. Wouldn't that be awkward? But we're around that point now where the best thing about the musical comes in, the Phantom, whose voice is supposed to be angelic and hypnotizing to the ear that we all love.
I am there inside.
Oh no. Gerard freaking Butler. They pushed away people who could sing for this role, which is probably the biggest mistake ever. The whole point of the Phantom is that he's an outcast due to his appearance, and the only way he feels he can find love is by singing into the heart of Christine. By casting Butler, they got it all backwards. Just look at the man, he's a stud. As we see in promotional material for the musical, there's always a full mask, which was how the mask was before the musical. This was done in order for the Phantom to give more expression during his performances, and because too much makeup under could interfere with the mask staying still. Now look at Michael Crawford and how terrifying he looks. The unique thing about Crawford is that they made his face ghost-like by giving his skin that pale tone, giving him 2 different colored eyes, as well as those huge lips. They stopped doing this in future productions, but did keep the lips inflamed and caked up the faces a little just to make him look a little bit more deformed. And it still worked in not making the Phantom look too good looking. When he sings Music of the Night, his voice is angelic while also bringing a bit of a ghoulish feel, which puts Christine in a trance, and you're hoping he can win her over. When Butler sings, it doesn't feel necessary, since he already looks so handsome from the get-go, and the whole point is that he needs to look terrifying. And it made me wonder, why didn't Christine just go with him from the very start? Just give her that stare, and I think you'll be fine, dude. And of course, we all know that Butler can't sing. If you're gonna do a musical like this one with an opera-like style, I want someone that's gonna be pleasing to my ear and not gonna be ear-raping me for 2 hours straight. He's no Emma Watson like in Beauty and the Beast, but pretty much the whole time he was singing, it sounded like something was holding him back and that he was struggling to really hit those high notes. A lot later in the movie when Christine sings the line,
"But his voice filled my spirit with a strange, sweet sound."
Strange? Absolutely. But tell me what's so sweet about this. Also, what exactly does Butler have to hide?
Oh my goodness!
Oh my god. He forgot to put on sunscreen. Oh my god! Lon Chaney face reveal, one of the most iconic and terrifying looks in film. The stage show, you can see his skull and the side of his face looks horrible, and you're stuck saying, oh my goodness, what happened? So just remember, if you forget sunscreen on your face, you're gonna be the outcast of your town, and no one will love you. Look, I know I'm trashing Butler a lot here, and I have nothing against him, but it was very disappointing to see the movie mess up their most important character and find someone that couldn't even hit the notes correctly. And just like his singing, even his lair isn't very appealing. It feels claustrophobic from top to bottom. You get those arms popping out of the walls. The river he travels on looks swampy and disgusting. The set is lit by this disgusting looking orangey color, and you've got the candles coming out of the water. The stage show is covered with this shadowy blue tone along with this mist, which seems fitting for a ghost-like figure. And just because the candles are done in the play doesn't mean it'll work in the movie. It's the magic of theater that can transition us from one area to another, and that's exactly what the candles are doing here. That's the only time in the movie they show up, and every other scene taking place here doesn't even show them. And how can you possibly make this even more silly?
Is this what you wanted to see?
Ah, yes, the mask removal scene. The iconic scene done in 1925, which terrified audiences everywhere, and where Eric's outburst is supposed to frighten Christine and scare her, ends up making her crack a smile. You would often be thinking here, oh my god, this man is psycho. But I think Emmy Rossum was just trying really hard to hold in a laugh, seeing how insane Butler acted and sounded during this scene. One of the moments of wrong emotion that I was talking about. A little later, we're back at the top of the opera house where the song Prima Donna comes into play, which is one of my favorites. The song is used for convincing Carlotta to play the leading role in the next opera, Il Muto, while the Phantom says a disaster will happen if Christine doesn't play it. The managers are praising her for her talent and saying how much the public loves her. But even this song they end up butchering. Look here, earlier in the movie, Carlotta was threatening to leave the opera until the Phantom's antics stop. But when she returns, the people at the opera are glad she's leaving and are basically telling her good riddance. The public outside are even asking for Christine and don't even care about Carlotta. So when the managers say, "Your public needs you," even though they literally just said,
Could you please give this to Miss Dyer?
if they cast Christine, they'll draw in more of an audience than before, and they even say earlier, "Dear Andre, what a charming gala. Christine enjoyed a great success. We were hardly bereft when Carlotta left." These are probably the dumbest managers I've ever seen. And even during the show, when they say Christine will be playing the leading role, the audience goes nuts. So what exactly was the point of this casting? I'd probably be a little less mad if Minnie Driver actually sang here. Oh yeah, and let's remove all the mysteriousness of the Phantom by just showing him walking around up above during the performance, as well as having him play tag with the guy he eventually murders. In the stage show, we only hear his voice and only see him appear when he wraps the noose around the man. Him getting hung in the movie also isn't played out as that big of a deal either, as the audience just gasps. Here's another no emotion moment when the managers act like this is a normal occurrence during the performance. And they don't even panic at all, despite them being the new management. A little bit later on the rooftop where All I Ask of You is sung, we just see the Phantom standing around watching Christine and Raoul sing the song to each other. When you hear that little it's a legit terrifying moment. And even when he reveals himself to the audience, I remember getting chills knowing that he was there, but nah, they just assume you've seen the show, so you already know that he's standing there. So let's just make him look like a middle schooler watching his crush get asked out by another guy. Had it been edited without him being shown throughout the song until he picks up the rose, would have made the sequence much better. And look, this sequence itself is a little bit odd considering Christine and Raoul have only talked twice, for only a few minutes combined, but having the focus on them instead of the Phantom once in a while would have made it a lot more impactful to watch. Here's another botched sequence that got to me, the Masquerade scene. Before this is usually the intermission and is used as a time jump for 6 months, but it's done very quickly and sloppily. So if you haven't seen the play and see Christine getting engaged to Raoul here, you're probably going to be thinking,
You can't marry a man you just met.
For the Masquerade song itself, there's some more half-assery here. In the show, you get to see all these crazy and colorful designs for masks. But nah, those are all replaced with boring black and white masks. I mean, shoot, who would want these colorful, cool masks when you can have these boring black masks? I got these in New Orleans. Christine getting trapped within the crowd of people with masks, looking around believing that one of them could be the Phantom, is now just replaced with her dancing with Raoul without a care in the world. And the extravagant outfit of Eric with the large skull mask is now reduced down to him looking like a red discount Zorro. I don't understand why Schumacher decided to half-ass all of this and even miss out on certain opportunities. But a few minutes later though, I'll admit I did like seeing how they showed the Phantom's life as a child and why he turned out the way he is instead of having Madame Giry explain it all like in the show. But along with the opening sequence and Minnie Driver as Carlotta, that's really the last bit of positive I can say about this movie. Back to Botchamania in the graveyard, where instead of having the Phantom show off his magic and illusionist style that he's known for, ends up engaging in a sword fight, which is also pretty poorly edited. You know, while watching this, I was feeling really dizzy because of all these close-up shots and fast edits, and this is honestly where I just checked out of the movie entirely. With the magic of movies, we could have seen some cool effects and really see what the fandom could do, not have a battle of the dicks. I mean, that's all Love Never Dies is about. They eventually perform Eric's opera to try and lure him out, but even this sequence suffers the same problem that Think of Me did in the very beginning. Apart from clearly showing his face instead of having him wear the large cloak masking his identity, just standing around with no movement, no emotion, nothing. Looking at it in the stage show, obviously the singing is beautiful. Both Christine and Eric put on a show that's exciting to watch through their movements and facial expressions with their seductive style, and they both put their hearts in it. Even through the subtlest movements, we see Eric get closer to Christine once again in a very seductive way. Even though you can't see his face, you can still imagine what his face really looks like under that hood. Here, they just walk around. Emmy Rossum is wondering why Gerard Butler's singing isn't improving, and they wait until the very end of the song to actually do something when the lyrics clearly call for some action throughout the entire song. Eventually, they go back to the lair. Gerard Butler does this. I don't think that's really gonna do much, dude. And Christine kisses Eric, driving him to let her and Raoul go free while he lives in his solitude. And of course, we get to end on the iconic final shot of Meg holding the mask, while zooming in on the monkey. Oh, and the story is still going on. Yeah, okay, forget perfect ways to end the show. We need to drag out the story even more despite it being over. Yeah, the auction scene in the very beginning actually had little bits of it sprinkled throughout the movie, which really slowed it down and brought it to a halt each time. And we see that Raoul brought the monkey to leave at Christine's grave, but he comes to find out that Eric was actually there before him to leave a rose. And then the credits finally roll. Look, I'll be honest here, I really wanted to love this movie, as it is one of my favorite musicals, but this was really tough to get through. And given some of the stupid choices made with the casting, emotional deliveries, and missed opportunities, I couldn't help but turn on the music from the original album right after to rinse off Gerard Butler's voice. Please just stop. Like I said, there were some things that I enjoyed in this film, but it was pretty rare and the bad stuff really outweighed the good parts. If you really want a good adaptation of this story, I say watch the 25th anniversary edition. It's probably the closest to the stage show you can get. Ramin Karimloo and Sierra Boggess are probably the best when it comes to embodying the characters of Christine and the Phantom, and their singing is pleasing to the ear. They hit every beat just right and go above and beyond when it comes to their performances. I would also really recommend the 1925 adaptation with Lon Chaney if you happen to like the story or are a horror movie fan. It truly is a staple in silent film and horror movie classics. It's even here on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description for it if you guys want to check it out. And if you haven't done it, don't bother watching Love Never Dies, as it pretty much completely undermines the Phantom's arc, and you'll be sitting there wondering why it was even made to begin with. As for this adaptation, it was truly a disappointment of the night, and I gotta give it 3 out of 10 Phantom masks. But what did you guys think about Phantom of the Opera? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you not care to watch it? I'd love to know in the comments below. Thank you guys for joining me in this review. And next week, we're going to be talking about a man who also wears a mask, but his name is Jim Carrey.
It's party time!
Until then, see you later.